The United Nations is very popular with people all over the world. So we don't need to introduce the United Nations, because once it is mentioned, you know who that is. So I call that name again, the United Nations. Now, what does that mean to you? I do not intend to talk today based on my Ph.D. or anything, in finance or leadership or management or research methodology. Today, I'm talking just as an African. And I'm talking to fellow Africans. So now, fellow African, what does United Nations mean to you? You hear that name all the time, and a lot of times people say, go to United Nations, and let's go and tell United Nations, and then the world powers. Who are they? When you say United Nations, exactly whom are you talking about? First of all, let me let you know that within the body called United Nations, there are members of what they call the Security Council. First of all, your country has to be part of the United Nations, a member first, before your country can even find its way into the Security Council. There are many countries that are members of the United Nations, many. But how many of them are members of the Security Council? So that's what I wanted to keep in mind. Go first and find out the name of your country and find out if your country has a seat at the desk at the United Nations organization. Now, when we say that the United Nations would like the world to be better than we all made it, what exactly does United Nations mean? And when you hear something like that, what does it mean to you? I mean, there are so many talking points. I may not remember all of them, but I'm going to just, by way of examples, talk about some of them. I'm going to speak to just a few talking points I can remember. Now, the United Nations says that they want to eliminate poverty. Not just eliminate poverty, but in all its ramifications. Now, look at your country. Find some indices to look at your country. Look at yourself. And when you look at yourself, every African on the continent has a village, belongs to a village, has kids and kins in the village. Look at yourself first, and then look at your village. Think about those you closely know in your village. How poor are they? Or in other words, how rich are they? Because the United Nations wants to eliminate poverty in all its ramifications, I mean all over the world. Now, take your village as a microcosm of the world. What is the poverty factor of the life people live in your village? If the United Nations wants to remove poverty, then there's got to be specific steps being taken along those lines. What is the United Nations doing that is affecting your village and showing you signs that poverty is being eliminated? And you see, there are so many layers in governance. When we talk about what the United Nations wants to do across the world, think first that there are countries. These countries have functionaries, and every country has either a prime minister or a president. So what does the prime minister do? Or what does the president do that indicates to you that poverty is being eliminated in your country in line with the postulations of the United Nations? Because some people just want to run to the go to the United Nations. Let's tell the United Nations. Who is that person at the United Nations that you're going to tell? Does your country have anybody representing it at the United Nations? And if that person is there, does that person have a seat in the Security Council or just the General Assembly? And how many times does the General Assembly meet? These are things you want to think about before you begin to run to the United Nations. And before you begin to rely on the United Nations to remove poverty in your country, you have to think about these things. When you look at poverty in your place, what exactly do you think needs to be done to remove poverty? Because I mean, this thing about United Nations and, okay, yeah, they actually have a name for it. The name they have for these things, there are two names that cross my mind. One name is Millennium Goals. Is that what they call it? Millennium Goals. I think those goals are developmental. So some like Millennium Development Goals, or whatever the name is. They also have the ones they call Sustainable Development Goals. And who sets those goals? And for whom are they setting those goals? And when they sit down in New York, in their palatial conference center and talk about setting Millennium Development Goals or Sustainable Development Goals, are they thinking about you? Really? Have you read any white paper pertaining to these things that might concern you? Have you? You just hear these things, and in fact, okay, let's just say you are a graduate student. You are conducting a research study in things pertaining to these MDGs and SDGs. You read up, because it's research, you read up, you copy some things, you quote and cite correctly using APA or MLA or whatever, Chicago. Then you do well, your paper looks good, it's acceptable, it's published. I am talking to my fellow Africans. How does the United Nations plans, Millennium Development Goals, and Sustainable Development Goals, how do they pertain to us? What things do we see as indications that we are in the number? Listen, make sure that there are farms in your village. Make sure there are farms. Make sure that each compound has a garden. There has to be a garden beside your house, in your backyard. Because a farm might be at a plantation like a mile or two away from your house. But you have to have a garden where you have your immediate greens and all that right there behind your house. You got to have that. Because it is your responsibility to eliminate poverty. It's yours. Don't listen and wait for the SDGs and MDGs. Those things are theories that sound practical, but by the time they step in, there's just like high voltage electric lines and whatever they call it, power lines. By the time they step it down to the transformers on the ground, and by the time they distribute these things to substations, and by the time they distribute these things to the houses, some houses, some homes consume more power and some consume less power. By the time they distribute these things, you can pretty much tell whether you are in luck or not. You have to have a garden beside your house. in addition to the farm you have, like half a mile, 1 mile, 5 miles away from your home or your house or your compound. The United Nations will not come from New York to remove poverty, and the governments of the countries, the prime minister and the secretary of this, secretary of that, and the minister of this, minister of that, they will not come to do it. Of course, my fellow Africans, we know how much effect our leaders have on us. We know. We don't need to read a textbook or a research article to know the effect that they have on us. We know. And when the United Nations says, okay, we want to make sure there's zero hunger. Zero hunger. Now, in your own mind, how can hunger be removed? In what way can hunger be removed? Now you think about it. Look, you are on your own. The United Nations is a place where the elite, selected, handpicked, and deployed, meet and do the things they do. And the effect you feel, the trickle-down effect, is better described by you, not by me. I'm not here to do some elitist presentation. I'm here to talk to my fellow Africans. Zero hunger. You are the one who should make sure that you have zero hunger. I'm not going to break all these things down today. I just want to draw your attention to those things that the United Nations talks about when they say sustainable development goals and millennium development goals. I want to draw your attention to them so that you can think how they affect you. Good health and well-being. Good health and well-being. When we talk about good health and well-being, we're talking about the pharmaceutical companies and what they give to you to use to maintain your health. Really? Fellow Africans, really? Pharmaceutical companies will give you some that will keep you healthy? Really think about it. Quality education. Let me tell you, across Africa, what we get is quality. Let me look for the best word. Quality indoctrination, quality brainwashing. That's what we get. Don't make a mistake about it. I am one of the products of brainwashing. Really? I know I am brainwashed. But if you are in denial, then you're not going to go anywhere. But when you begin to admit, for instance, admit that you're a drunkard, then your problem can begin to be solved. If you begin to admit that, look, that you are a drug addict, when you admit it, then your solutions can begin to come. So I am admitting that I am brainwashed. I mean, in terms of education, I'm brainwashed. So when they say quality education, my fellow Africans, what constitutes quality education? What is it? Did we not have education on that continent before the colonialists came? Where did our education go? Where did they go? Did you know that we lost some words in our vocabulary? So we can no longer speak our native languages completely without adding English words to them? Are you going to deny this fact? Make a sentence in your local language, dear African. Make a sentence in your local language. I'm going to leave that because I'm not breaking down anything today. Gender equality, who owns that agenda? Sustainable development goals? Millennium development goals? Let me tell you, fellow African, there is nothing like gender equality in Africa. African societies have thrived with gender inequality before the colonialists came and gradually began to introduce gender equality. And then before you know it, women, I don't have anything against women. I have women all surrounding me. At my top, there's a woman. On my left, there's a woman. There's a right on my woman. Below me, there's a woman. I mean, blood relatives. I am surrounded by women and I love them. But we must understand that we do not have gender equality on our continent. It was brought to us as part of the brainwashing. Again, like I said, I'm brainwashed. I am brainwashed. So the women around me, I allow them to do whatever they want to do. They have rights. They can, yeah, it is the brainwashing. But how far has that helped Africa? How far? Look at the Benin Kingdom that powered the street lights before the colonialists came. They had street lights. Now today, go to Benin Kingdom, go there. Will you see street lights? Go there and check. Clean water and sanitation. Clean water. Clean water. Think of, today, like I said, I'm not breaking down anything. I'm just trying to draw your attention and remind you of the things that the United Nations wants to do for you, and you've been waiting. You've been waiting. I mean, I've been waiting for a long time. Clean water and sanitation. How clean is the water you are drinking in your village, fellow African? How clean is the water? Sanitation. How much refuse do you see along the road or at the market square, at the intersections in your village? Because you see, charity begins at home. Some say from home, I say at home. How much refuse do you see? Who picks up the refuse? Who disposes of them? And where do they dispose the refuse? Do you know that refuse is something that can generate energy? How much electricity have you generated from the refuse around you? But the United Nations says the SDGs and MDGs include giving you clean water and sanitation. Promises. These are just like the kinds of things that your politicians tell you, and you put them in office 4 years, 8 years, they come back again and say, we want to give you clean water. Why did they not give you clean water in the first 4 or the second 4 years? Why? The United Nations says they want to give you affordable and clean energy. Affordable and clean energy. I mean, you will be waiting till the world ends. Decent work and economic growth. Just drawing your attention. Decent work. What's the meaning of decent work? Africans, what's the meaning of decent works? Fellow Africans, our decent work. Go to farm. Cultivate. Harvest. Sell in the markets. Harvest good. Because in Africa, you see, I'm not trying to send you back millions of years ago, but I mean, what do we have right now? The villages are deserted. The economy is bad. People are in the cities, and they don't even have any jobs in the cities. They don't want to come back from the city to the village. They don't want to do it. But where they are in the cities, they are not living well, but they don't want to leave the city. Why? It is all part of the indoctrination. But in the village, how they were raised was that grandpa had 5, 4, 6, 10 wives, as the case may be. They had large farms, and they produced and harvested huge. They sold in wholesale, and they made tons of money. And that's what happened before. Decent work, that is agriculture. That is decent work. If you want to tell me that decent work is wearing suit like I'm wearing now, wear suit, put on tie and all that, and stay hungry. Put on my suit and tie, carry my briefcase, go to the office, and sit down there, and somebody calls me and I say, sir, yes sir, do this sir, yes sir. That's what I've been doing. I did decent work, and I cannot pay my bills. The United Nations wants to give you decent work and economic growth. Industry, innovation and infrastructure. How much infrastructure have you seen? I mean, new ones in how many years at your place? How much infrastructure have you seen? How much development have you seen in terms of infrastructure and innovations? In how many years now? What did you see? But we're going to be sitting down here in Africa and waiting for SDGs and MDGs. We have not seen any innovations in terms of industry and commerce. We have not seen anything in infrastructure. Of course, in terms of commerce, we are people who buy and sell. But what are we doing across the continent? They want to reduce inequalities so that when they remove inequalities, they will begin to make the children disobey their parents. They're going to make the wives obey their husbands. Make everybody to be equal. So you can tell your son, don't do this. He says, no, daddy, I got the right to do whatever I want to do. Remove inequalities, and that is what kills Africa, because when we deviate from our ways or depart from the ways that we have lived for several years, then see the results we're getting right now. Those are the results of what the SDGs and MDGs are doing. Remove inequalities. Not anybody. We're not looking for equalities. We're looking for respect. Everybody, even if somebody is subservient or subject to you, that person still deserves respect. So what is that? What is this inequality about? They want to remove inequalities. They want to give you sustainable cities. How long ago did you see a sustainable city around you? How long ago? Where is that? We're going to talk about the reasons for the absence of these things, but not today. Like I said, today I just want to draw your attention to the things that the United Nations wanted to do. I'll say wanted in the past, because they have still not done until now, so it was in the past. They're not doing anything. They want to create responsible consumption and production. Do you know the meaning of that? When you hear responsible consumption and responsible production, you know what that means? It means that you are going to be controlled in the things you consume. You're going to be controlled in the things you produce. That's what it is. Think about it. So, they talk about climate action. What does that mean to you? African. What does climate action mean to you? Across Africa, what we do is we look at the skies, we see the clouds, we know what's going to happen next. We do things we do based on what we've seen in the horizon. That's the way we operate. But do we still do so right now? Hey, the SDGs and MDGs have done a number on all of us. They talk about life below water. What is our business with life below water? The people who live in the riverine areas, people who live in the coastal areas, they know what to do with life in the water. They do the fishing, they kill the beasts in the water, and they sell them. We in the inland or hinterland, we buy. So this is distributed. People do what they need to do. But when the United Nations tells you that they are looking into life below water, what is their business in the life below water at my area? The things that can touch me, those things haven't even been touched. But they're touching me every day, but they haven't been touched by those who want to say that they care. And then life on land. What's the meaning of life on land? What's the meaning of life on land? Is it which land? The land on which we work and cultivate, that our ancestors have been, have been tilling since 3,000 years or more? So somebody will come now and say, I am United Nations, I want to look into life on land. Okay, they talk about peace, justice, and strong institutions. Peace, justice, strong institutions. What do they mean to you, my fellow African? So, when you hear the word or the expression United Nations, you better be sure that you are listening very well, and you are comparing notes, and then you are looking at how those things are being said apply to you. Look for white papers if you can read them. But then, if you are African like me, white paper or no white paper, Africa has been in existence and has been thriving for a long time before the colonialists came. So let us not allow this brainwashing that has bamboozled us. Some of us, are now like zombies. In fact, some will even kill you. They want to kill me for the things I'm saying. Yeah, because we've been so brainwashed that whatever we hear is the law. Whatever we are told is the law. No, we got to stop that. We got to stop that. Today is just for highlighting and drawing attention to those items. We will talk about them one by one later. Thank you.